The makers of this movie wish to acknowledge the original custodians and first people of this country, from whom we can learn about the close relationship between the land and those who live upon it, and the need to respect that land for the life it provides.
Second Valley 2013, with its beautiful rolling hills where cattle and sheep graze peacefully. An emerald green paradise from June to November. Those lucky enough to live here or be regular visitors watch in wonder every year as those hills turn to a deep golden colour. While this is happening, the winter seaweed is receding from the beach, uncovering a new white sandy spread each October, ready for the summer visitors who flock to enjoy what has recently, in 2012, officially been named one of Australia's best beaches. It has been a well-kept secret for many years, known to a lucky few and jealously guarded. What is it that makes Second Valley so popular and so special?
Everyone who visits has their own ideas, but the general consensus is that it has the feel of a place that time has left behind to a certain extent. Some locals laughingly refer to Second Valley time, which is fairly approximate and undemanding. This sense of time somehow slowing down here has lulled us into the feeling that the place never changes, and the Second Valley we know and love will always be ready to share its fun and nurture our souls. Reality tells us, though, that time does not stand still, and Second Valley, like most popular coastal spots around Australia, is changing constantly and is possessed of a vibrant history. Our history is particularly special, being so close to the birthplace of South Australia and the first landing of Colonel William Light at Rapid Bay. Some of the buildings still in use in Second Valley are among the oldest relics of early European settlement. This is not a definitive history of Second Valley. For that you must carry out your own research, or get yourself a copy of Ron Blum's book Second Valley.
This Second Valley, approached at first by Colonel Light from the sea in 1836, appeared a fine prospect for settlement. The cove was adequate for mooring a vessel, with close access to good water. The valley was abundant in trees, with enough open land for light agriculture. It was isolated, and early life was challenging. However, these sturdy and enterprising folk forged a life in and around the district, sowing and building, harvesting and mining, and investing in a future for their children who attended the little school at the head of the valley. Fishing and hunting provided supplementary food, while crops flourished and failed. New ways were found to realise the modest dreams of the enterprising community: milling of wood, flour and wattle bark, and quarrying minerals. A culture of harmony and cooperation, with the occasional dispute over critical spring water in the valley, and social activities such as horse racing, tennis, a small chapel, and a hotel providing diversion and entertainment. The erection of a hall has provided happy and colourful memories and alliances for the local folk since 1922. Because the valley is limited in area, the population has remained small. However, the beauty of the coastline and the rural atmosphere ensured that there will always be many visitors who dreamed of settling for the summers here. Though the caravan park and later the subdivisions have accommodated many thousands of happy holidaymakers over the years, Second Valley has retained the atmosphere of a small community, mostly unspoiled by unruly development.
Sometime in the 50s, the land was divided by William James for sale as a subdivision. Lots 1 to 74 on the hillside were linked by Sea Cove Crescent and Valley Heights Drive across the bottom and up the hill, with Scenic View and Ocean View drives running parallel higher up, following the contours of the hill, branching across and down to the main road, now known as Finnis Vale Road. The Burns, Barnard Browns, Olsons and Frank Brown were the first to erect temporary dwellings, beginning with iron sheds and outside dunnies, and copper for heating water and cooking crays, hopefully. There were no fences and no trees. You need water to grow trees, and in spite of the permanent freshwater stream, it was actually seasonal and barely drinkable, good for yabbies and frogs down on the flat. The only water supply was collected from roofs. So iron tanks and concrete underground tanks became the norm. And only after more permanent dwellings were erected did people begin to plant trees, a luxury. Boats on trailers and trailers laden with old furniture were parked next to the fibro shacks and Besser block bunkers, and the only landscaping was piles of gravel and sand, and wheelbarrows for much of the time. Grundy's paddocks bounded the southern side of the subdivision on the hill, tracked by sheep going down to water at the creek, then mown and stooked with hay in late summer. The dusty white gravel roads were blazing hot for barefooted kids to walk on as they returned homeward for lunch, edged by grass waist high in the spring and burned off and blackened in the early summer. The local kids would make something resembling an Arab headdress by wrapping a beach towel around one skinny leg and rolling it down. This donut with a curtain placed on the head provided shade from sun and flies, especially if it was long enough to wrap around the body. The hill was long, no one ever thought of carrying water in a bottle. There were no grocery stores between the Cape and Normanville, so permanent residents were supplied with some necessary goods by travelling vendors. The butcher and baker did a weekly round for a while, and a draper would chug up the hill to Valley Heights every few months. He would lower the side of his little van to reveal a wonderful array of fabrics, sewing notions, and the odd ready-made garment. Clothes were still made at home in those crisp cottons and soft rayons. The Faldings man, with his range of Solipdol soap and eucalyptus oil products, left a lingering fragrance after he'd enjoyed his cup of tea and travelled on. Clarissa McGrath was a permanent resident on Ocean View Drive, a capable and industrious woman who was sometimes called upon to accommodate the crop duster pilot, building contractors working on nearby projects, and even the shipwrecked family of 6 who got into difficulties in a storm while sailing to Kangaroo Island. It was a quiet locale, but there are still many stories to tell of those times. Down on the flat, bounded by Government Road, now Catlow, Riverside and Recreation Drives, and divided by Boathaven Avenue, were lots 75 to 104, and a recreation reserve, although the reserve wasn't common knowledge in the early days because it was pretty much all grassy stubble until young trees defined the boundaries in the 70s. And who would want to play on a stubbly paddock when the beach was just down the hill? More fun was guaranteed by swimming, rambling over cliffs and rocky coast, sliding down grassy hillsides and getting all black with squid ink, and walking home tired and salty with crispy sun-bleached hair. Those streets are prettier now, landscaped and tree-lined, but still unfenced. The subdivisions are finally realising their early potential, but the view is disappearing. Unchecked development and high-rise housing may eventually reduce the sense of freedom, space and unbounded light those early residents treasured. Until then, the last of the old shacks and early houses stand, now cloaked in trees as remnant memories of simple, happy, safe 60s days in the holiday community.
One of the local characters was Leo Scott, better known as Scotty. Arriving in Australia in 1928 on his 16th birthday as part of the Barwell Boys immigration scheme, his first job was shooting parrots for Harley Wayland at a vineyard in Yankalilla. He travelled around the district, living sometimes as a suggy, doing odd jobs until he enlisted in the AIF in 1940. Leo was posted to Alice Springs, where he met Anne Beattie. Engaged within 4 weeks, married 2 months later, and then, after just 3 weeks of marriage, his battalion was shipped to Singapore. Scotty and his mates were captured north of Singapore as the Japanese moved down the Malay Peninsula. He was one of the thousands of POWs who slaved on the Burma Railway. After the war ended and he came home, he was finally reunited with his beloved Anne in 1946. Anne and Scotty owned several properties in Second Valley over the years. There was Palm House from about 1950 until the early 60s, Lawless Cottage in Gamlin Place, and then in 1973 they purchased the general store from Fred and Bonnie Gamlin. In the 1960s they lived near and ran the Roadhouse in Normanville. Scotty was a fisherman, a gentle soul, a resourceful jack of all trades, and probably best known as an accomplished and popular musician. He played the saxophone in Des Stone's band with Ivan Bartel, Neville Willis, and many others over the years. The band was in so much demand around the district for the regular dancers. Anne and Scotty contributed to the community through their involvement in local activities and social dance events. Scotty passed away on the 2nd of September 2005.
Not content with being a sleepy little village, Second Valley has spent its time in the limelight. Due to the beach's unique outlook, where there is no visible evidence of the 20th century that can't be easily hidden, several movies and TV series have been filmed here. No houses overlook our beach and our historic jetty. Beautiful rock formations and interesting pebble beach and the shallow caves lend themselves wonderfully to the cinematographer's art. Captain Jono, Shadows of the Heart, The Fairies, and even a commercial which involved riding a motorcycle off the jetty have all been filmed at Second Valley. In 2001, Channel 7 Discovery program filmed Malcolm Hamilton kayaking off the beach.
Malcolm Hamilton, the man behind local company Blue Water Sea Kayaking, for a day on the water at Second Valley. He's also a senior canoeing instructor, so we knew we were in good hands.
So what we'll do is we'll leave the beach one at a time. That's just a safety precaution. When we get out there, my suggestion is we just meet about 50 metres out the back. Put your rudders down, it'll be certainly easier for you, then we'll paddle as a group around the corner.
Are we going to tip over today?
I hope not. The boats are very stable, so we should be okay.
How quickly have things changed in Second Valley? Like all change, it has been gradual, but while we weren't looking, our sleepy little village has been growing and expanding. The recent developments in Grundy Court and Ocean View Drive have seen 2-storey homes become more popular, and gradually, new homes are popping up on the vacant blocks, still sprinkled throughout the subdivision. Family shacks move down through the generations, and each generation makes their own improvements and changes. For holidaymakers, the variety is ever growing. From an early choice of only the Jetty House Guest House or rough camping, there are now a wide range of holiday accommodation options, from luxury new homes to renovated much-loved family shacks, and there is still much fun to be had staying at the caravan park.
One scene repeats itself over and over again from the time George French Angus captured the beauty of the sunset over Rapid Head in watercolours. Visitors and locals take the time to stroll on the jetty at sunset and capture that achingly beautiful and familiar silhouette of the boatshed island as the sun slips behind it into the sea.